Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video day, and today the Houston Texans play the New York Jets in a Week 9 matchup, which is Thursday Night Football, and we're going to be previewing this matchup. So excited for this game tonight. This is going to be a new thing for C.J. Stroud in his career. It's going to be his first time playing on the short week, playing Thursday Night Football. Last year, the Texans only had one primetime game, and that was a Saturday game. It was a Saturday night game against the Colts, which was that last game of the year. And, this year the Texans have had a Sunday Night Football, but this is going to be C.J. Stroud's first Thursday Night Football of his career. This is going to be the Texans' only Thursday night game of the year. Actually, these next three games, Texans get to do, which I know only one team has done this year, and I have not seen this often in my football, watching days. I've seen it a couple times outside of what, the Bills doing it this year, but where a team plays Thursday Night Football, then Sunday Night Football, then Monday Night Football. I know we saw it with the Bills. They took it in a different direction. They started off with Thursday Night Football against the Dolphins, then Monday Night Football against the Jags, and then they had Sunday Night Football against the Ravens. Texans are going in a little bit of a different direction. They're going obviously Thursday Night Football tonight against the Jets, Sunday Night Football against the Lions, and then Monday night against the Cowboys in Dallas. So it's definitely going to be a big spotlight on these Texans over these next 3 weeks, but it starts off here tonight in New York and on Halloween as well. Happy Halloween to those who celebrate. But I remember the last time the Texans played Thursday Night Football, it was middle of the season, around this time of year. And I remember very vaguely because of what was also going on. It was the Texans and the Eagles. Davis Mills obviously was the starting quarterback. It wasn't a huge matchup, but what made the matchup for the Texans and the Eagles more interesting was at the same time you had the Astros and the Philadelphia's baseball team going up against each other in the World Series. So that's how I know it. That was around this time of year, since the baseball World Series this year between the Yankees and Dodgers just ended. So, I remember that night, just very well, just because of how cool it was to see two Houston and Philly matchups. Obviously, one was way more important. I remember it was Astros Game 5. I believe Verlander was pitching, and I know Chas McCormick made that huge catch in center field. And the Astros won Game 5 of the World Series. Meanwhile, it wasn't great for the Texans on the other end. The Texans did lose the Eagles. It wasn't very close, as the Texans were very bad that year. The Eagles were very good. Eagles went to the Super Bowl that year. The Texans were one of the bottom teams in the NFL. So, how that game played out. And, tonight's going to be a little bit as, the same as it was 2 years ago. It's not going to be as good, but obviously the Astros are eliminated, but we're going to have Rockets basketball on tonight. Rockets playing the Mavericks. That's a big rivalry right there. So I know a lot of people would probably rather see the Astros in the World Series and get to watch the Texans at the same time. I know, people would prefer that, but I'll take Rockets basketball and Texans football on at the same time. Rockets start at 7:30, Texans start at 7:15. I am excited to have both of these two teams on at the same time, and I don't think these two teams have been on at the same time with each other since both teams have improved. Like in these last couple of years, since both of these teams, the Rockets and the Texans, over the last couple of years, it's not going to be hidden that both of these teams have been garbage. But last season, we saw both of these teams take the right step in the direction. The Texans went from bottom team in the NFL to a playoff team, being in the division round. Rockets, on the other end, went from the worst team in basketball to a 41-41 record. So both teams, I think it's inspiring to look at, how both teams, the Rockets and Texans, have, taken a big jump. And I think now, I think both of them in their separate leagues have turned into more of contenders. So I can't wait to watch both these two teams play tonight. But let's talk about the Texans. So it's going to be an exciting one. C.J. Stroud versus Aaron Rodgers. We saw the Jets last year. It was a bad matchup. 30-6 was the final score. It wasn't even Rodgers that the Texans were going up against. Zach Wilson had the game of his season. I'm not going to say the game of his life because Zach Wilson has had some other decent performances, but Zach Wilson was going crazy against the Texans last year. And I'm not feeling great about C.J. Stroud going into this game, knowing how good the Jets are against passing offenses, mainly going up against passing offenses, on the when going up at home when the Jets are at home. So I don't expect a big game from C.J. Stroud today. To be particularly honest, I think if the Texans are going to win this game, it's going to be with Joe Mixon, and that's going to be the way it is. I see a big night for Joe Mixon. The Jets very well might have an amazing pass defense. They are phenomenal with their defense against their opponents with the pass. But the one thing they struggle with a lot is the run game. They are terrible when going up against the run. And with the way Joe Mixon has been playing recently, the way the Texans have been feeding him more and more, that's not the guy you want to go up against when your run defense is really struggling. Here's the thing. Last year, I think it is a lot different than this year when the Texans are going up against this Jets team in New York. Last year, with CJ struggling against the Jets and him not really being able to, get anything, really was not able to, he wasn't able to get in rhythm. And if that happens tonight, I think it's a little bit different because for starters, I think this defense is more dangerous than they were last year. I think the defense was good last year, but I think this year the defense is great. Will Anderson is playing elite football, not like he wasn't last year, but he's playing better football. You added Danielle Hunter. I think this defense is better. They've had their weak moments, but I think their defense is more elite than they were last year. And another thing is I love Devin Singletary. No hate to him, but I think if C.J. Stroud goes cold in this game because of the defense he's going up against, you have a way better running back to get offense going that way. And I didn't see last year Devin Singletary or Dameon Pierce, for that matter, getting hot against this Jets run defense, their run defense. Joe Mixon on the other end tonight, I can see him having a big game against this defense. So I'm excited to see what happens tonight. I think it's going to be a very interesting game. My prediction is that the Texans win, but I think it's a very close game. I think I don't think CJ Stroud is going to be as bad as he was against the Packers. I expect him to be a little bit better than he was against the Packers, but I don't think it's going to be much more. I think he probably gets near 200 passing yards. And it's no hate to CJ Stroud. It's just the defense he's going up against. And the main reason I don't expect a big game for CJ Stroud is because, number one, I hope that this team gets a lead and they're not really in the need of passing later on. But also, I think it's going to be a big game for Joe Mixon. I'm not going to say he gets 100 rushing yards, but I think he's going to get damn close. And if not, he's going to go over 100 rushing yards in this game. I expect a big game for Joe Mixon and a W on top of that. Let me know your thoughts on the Texans game. And peace out. Go Texans.